So, so, let's get started here, right? Welcome everyone here on our 8 o'clock Zoom evening with our Bedford County endorsed candidate, Euegene DePasquale. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly, by the way?
It's close enough. DePasquale, but it is close enough.
DePasquale. Okay, apologies. Um, so this is, we're offering this as an opportunity for everyone to learn about Euegene and see why we're so excited about him. Euegene, can you see your screen? You see the folks that are on here?
Oh, yeah, I can see. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Welcome, and thank you, everyone. Dave, I'm going to turn it over to Dave to give the explanation of how we came up with this concept of a text program and doing this event this evening.
So Bedford County Democrats are part of the Contesting Every Race Grants program. And it's a nationwide program to try to build political capacity in rural counties. And somebody's funding this pretty well because what they do is they have monthly projects that members engage in. And if you meet your project, you get a $175 grant for that month's activities, which comes out to about $2,100 a year. And they've done things that we've benefited from. So one of the other things that they do is they sponsor mass texting programs. And what we thought we would try to do is use that to see how Bedford County Democrats would respond to a mass text. And Euegene graciously agreed to do this thing. I mean, he was here just on Saturday and traveling across the state, and we're taking some time out of his evening again to do this. That we sent a text with the CER program, sent a text to all the strong Dems in Bedford County. And the text said that Euegene was offering to do this kind of a job interview. And we didn't get the kind of response that we hoped we would get. But one thing that we did do is we managed to get your name out there to every strong Dem household, Euegene, with this text message. So we hope that helps. And the other thing,
hey, look, yeah, this is not a presidential race where everyone is universally known. As much as everyone in the political circles know me, you'd be amazed how many people beg. It just this is usually a battle just to get your name in front of people.
So we did manage to do that. If we don't have 2,000 Dems on this Zoom call here, we did get your name out today. Or the text message went out yesterday. And so the other thing that we're going to do is we're recording this so that we'll put you up on our website, and anybody who wants to, check in, and every time they come to our website, they'll see you in a little video box, and we'll do our best to keep your name out there. So let me turn it over.
Thanks, Dave.
Euegene, you're up.
Oh, okay. So I'll just start off with just the basic introduction. My name is Euegene DePasquale, running for Attorney General. I'm the former Auditor General of Pennsylvania, which has given me experience in running statewide investigations. Because my investigation found over 3,000 untested rape kits. My team and I working together with law enforcement and advocates and victims, we cleared that backlog and we brought justice to victims. So my investigation found 58,000 unanswered phone calls to the child abuse hotline. Any single one of those calls could have been life or death for a child, but it wasn't enough for me and my team to just find that problem. We traveled to every single county in this state to make sure our children were better protected. Following their horrific shooting at Stillman Douglas, I co-chaired the Pennsylvania School Safety Task Force to make sure that our schools were safer for our students. And particularly in the Corbett administration, with the Marcellus Shale drilling, I investigated them to make sure that the drinking water of Pennsylvania was protected, and found out that particularly in rural Pennsylvania, it was not. So I worked together with my team. We put together recommendations and basically forced the Corbett administration to hire more inspectors to make sure that the drinking water of rural Pennsylvania was protected. And that's some of the leadership I brought as your Auditor General. But I also offer personal experience that I believe makes me a perfect fit for Attorney General for a host of reasons. For starters, my dad was wounded in Vietnam, became addicted to painkillers, eventually started dealing and was incarcerated. I've seen both sides of the most failed war in the history of the United States, and that's the war on drugs, particularly a rural county like Bedford. You know firsthand what is happening with the opioid epidemic. And I want to use my experience, both professional and personal. Personal, it would mean I know no one is a number to me. Professionally, I investigated all the drug rehabilitation programs in the state to find out what worked and what didn't. So I want to use both those experiences to make sure that we make a real dent in the opioid epidemic while I'm your Attorney General. I also know what it's like to struggle. My brother Anthony had muscular dystrophy. Because of that, we never had health insurance because before the ACA, he had a pre-existing condition. So I know what these big insurance companies are capable of doing, because when he passed away from complications with muscular dystrophy and I was putting myself through night law school, we had to take out loans to pay for the funeral. My dad even had to come to that funeral in shackles. So for anyone that's had a fight with an insurance company or a big corporation, you should know that I want to be your lawyer. And also, for some of you that follow me on Facebook or Twitter, we have, I'm blessed with two great kids. Ben is doing great in grad school at Georgetown, and Sarah's doing great, excuse me, at Temple. But before we had Ben, we had an ectopic pregnancy. The decision we made then in the state of Oklahoma, now even Florida and some of these other states, would potentially land Tracy, myself, and our doctor in prison. So I want to make it clear, as your Attorney General, I'll protect abortion rights not only for every Pennsylvanian, but for anyone leaving or fleeing one of these right-wing authoritarian states to come here to have their reproductive rights. I'll protect them as well. And I will not cooperate with any Attorney General, particularly I would assume in this case it would be Republicans, who will try to get the private health data of anybody that's in Pennsylvania legally. And I also offer you political experience. Not only do I have a record of protecting Pennsylvanians in every single county of our state, but I also have something that no other candidate in this race has. That's a proven track record of winning statewide. I've run statewide twice before and I've won twice. And how did I do that? I was never the big money candidate. Yes, when I ran for re-election as state auditor, I had more funds than my opponent, but I was outspending my first race and won. How? I think you've seen that in some of this race now. I have more actual people donating to my campaign. I don't have the most money, but the most people donating to my campaign than any candidate in this race. I also, when it came to signature time, again, everyone legally got on the ballot. I'm here to tell you they all did what they had to do. But I had signatures of over 8,300 people from 61 counties. No one else even came close. So the final point I want to make on the running statewide twice and winning twice is that one of those times was when Trump was on the ballot. So to offer you the political experience of knowing how to put together a grassroots campaign, winning with grassroots money, and winning when Trump was on the ballot, along with my personal experience of knowing struggle, my professional experience of knowing how to conduct tough investigations that are tough and fair on everybody. As I've told people before, I was tough and fair on Governor Corbett as Auditor General, but I was also tough and fair on Governor Wolf, a Democrat, even though I voted for him twice and certainly rooted for his success, as I root for any governor to succeed. And that's why I offer you, and I think that's a large part of why the Bedford Democratic Party endorsed me, and happy to answer any questions on the campaign or anything else.
And so if you have a question, you're going to have to unmute yourself, because I muted a few people just because we were getting background noise.
Eugene, I have a question and just maybe a general comment. When you talk about fundraising and which candidate has the most money, and it oftentimes appears as if money is such a driving factor in a lot of these races. How do you see the race shaping up between yourself and the Republican candidate as far as financially?
Yeah.
You know,
So
you know, kind of like your reserves and his
yeah.
reserves.
So first of all, I got to get there. I got to win the primary. I feel good. Only one that's west of the Schuylkill River. Name ID. We're doing a texting digital mail program, but anything could happen. But the thing that we as Democrats, and Danny McCaffrey ran into this, get frustrated, and is we hustle our tail. For myself, I've got I think now close to 2,000 people that have donated to me in the race. But they have one guy, Jeff Yass. Jeff Yass is worth $36 billion and he'll write a check.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to mention the name, but the person that has raised the least amount of money in the Democratic race for Attorney General, again, I'm not mentioning the name, that's not relevant. Other than this, that person has raised more money than both Republican Attorney General candidates combined. That's the
Wow.
lowest one on the Democratic side.
Wow.
They say, "Oh, are we going to have more money?" And the answer to that is no, because Jeff Yass will write a check.
Correct.
Now, I will tell you, there's strengths and weaknesses in it. Danny McCaffrey had Carluccio had a check from Jeff Yass, but by getting look, and it's hard. I'm going to tell you, like, I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me or anyone else that's chosen to do this, but getting these small dollars, spending time on the phone, having small events all over the place. And by the way, for anyone that wants to donate, DePasquale for AG.com. Don't want my finance team to fire me as a candidate, especially with 2 weeks out. I don't know what we would do if you get fired 2 weeks out. I think it forces you to develop a broader appeal and a broader base of support. I think you can get lazy when one person funds it. But having said that, I'm not naive to it. They're going to have enough money in the general election. And our job is to have enough. Doesn't mean you have to have more, but you have to have enough. And by that, we also have a Democratic Attorney General Association, and we also have the governor. And I think both of them will consider this office quite important going into the fall to be helpful. Again, we got to do a lot of this work ourselves, but I think the governor and the AG Association will be helpful to us in making sure that we're in the ballgame financially.
Right. Thank you. Nina.
Hi, thank you. I don't want to get depressed about all of this early in the meeting, but I need to ask you this. If we can elect you and yet Trump is elected, what can you do to protect us from his DOJ?
I want to tell you that two things. Number one is I don't want that option. Okay. I want Biden to be in. I want myself to be in. Okay. But you're asking a question, and it is an important question because I have braced my family for this and friends, and my life is going to be dramatically different.
Yep.
If that's the case. Just that's what's going to happen. And I've signed up for it. And I've braced people that care for me up to say, this thing that could be turning into like a really neat opportunity will take a whole different path if he's in the White House. I'm the Attorney General of Pennsylvania. Okay. That is what it is. It's my job to protect our democracy and to protect our state laws and our state freedoms. And the good news that you have with me is from the time I was little to now, I know how to deal with bullies. I grew up in a neighborhood. Now, me at 52, I want everyone to love each other. I'm pro green tea. I'm pro yoga, blah, 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 blah. But I did play college football at 5'10", 170. I did the same thing in high school. I do Ironman races and CrossFit and all this other stuff. And I read my passage from the Daily Stoic every day. And one of them is along the lines of this. You would have to be crazy to want war. You would have to be crazy to want someone to want to fight you and to be physically dangerous to you. But if Trump comes and I'm the one that's home, I'll be ready. Do I
you.
want that outcome? No, I don't. But if that's the scenario that happens, the point you should know is mentally, physically, and emotionally, I'm ready.
And is your family ready?
My daughter's a little bit more nervous about that than anybody because she's 21 and in college. But we've had that discussion, and she has said if that's the fight, then she wouldn't want anyone else to be there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
She may not come back from Italy. She's studying abroad this semester. She may keep voting from it because as I jokingly told all my because the overseas ballots were the ones mailed out first. You know, I was up 1-0 early, but she is really enjoying Italy too. So, but I understand the question. It was actually something I had to brace up in my head before I decided to run because it's not in the world of impossibility.
Right.
So I appreciate the question, Nina.
Thank you.
Eugene, if elected, what abilities do you have to work with other attorneys general in the other states?
Yeah, it is one of the things that I think the former Attorney General, now Governor Shapiro, really was the first Attorney General in Pennsylvania history that really set that path out. And I certainly will continue that. I'll give you an example of how I work in cooperation. Look, as a freshman lawmaker in the legislature, I passed the Alternative Energy Investment Act. It was the largest alternative energy bill in Pennsylvania history. Why? Because I knew how to put together coalitions. In these partisan times, 180 people voted for that legislation. Why? Because I worked it tirelessly over a year. When I got rid of when I say I, obviously it was a team, when we got rid of the backlog of untested rape kits, there was another state that did something very similar, and that was the state of Kentucky. Kentucky, the position is called the Auditor of State Accounts. Auditor General is a much cooler name. Let's be very clear about that, as opposed to Auditor of State Accounts. That doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. But that individual was a Republican. We called each other up and said, I got an idea. Why don't we go to the National Auditors Conference and teach every other auditor how to look into this issue so we clear this backlog across the country? And both of us did. We went to Nashville. If you ever want to go to a party, by the way, don't go to a Rolling Stones concert. Don't go to a Taylor Swift concert. Go to the Auditors Conference. It's crazy. It's beyond your wildest dreams of how crazy they get. I mean, they're sitting there with the green lampshades on. It's crazy time. But we walked them all through how to did it. And so you could look it up now. There's not every state in the country, but there's a lot of states now because of that work that cleared that backlog. That's because I partnered with the Republican Auditor Kentucky, and we went there not as a Republican, not as a Democrat, not as a liberal or a conservative, but went there as two Americans saying, this is what we found. And if you kind of do it similar to us, you can help bring justice to victims as well. That's the type of work I would bring as Attorney General.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Casey, hello.
Hi, I have a question. Sorry, I had my camera off because I was
No, that's fine.
washing
You're
dishes
great.
and cleaning up dinner. But one question I have for Euegene, and thank you for taking the time to be here with us this evening. But I'm not really sure exactly what the question I'm trying to ask is, but around election integrity. Pennsylvania was a state that had some recounts in the last presidential election. So, maybe how would you address election security and election integrity going forward?
So for starters, I've already done some work on this. When I was Auditor General, I investigated what is known as the SURE system, SURE, which is the voter registration database in Pennsylvania. And even I know maybe they won't be bragging about this come November, but Republicans even a week ago were talking about that investigation and how it made sure that our voter registration system was much more secure in Pennsylvania. So part of this is how you do it is by being proactive. Look, if I win, my job in the transition is not only to get my team in place, but also to start directing and working with the current AG on beating back some of these crazy lawsuits, because that's going to start immediately after the election. And the long and short of it is, my job as Attorney General is not to pick the winner. It's to make sure that who the voters picked is a winner. And look, I'm going to cast a vote, and you're probably not going to be shocked to hear this. It's going to be for Mr. Biden. But as the Attorney General, my job is to make sure who the greater we picked is the winner. And you do that by anticipating some of the lawsuits, by sending out to all the judges' elections the sort of the protocols of what they are allowed to do, what they aren't allowed to do, working with them on their training system. I will say I have enormous respect for the people that are majority and minority inspectors in a lot of these communities. They get a piece of candy, they get an I voted sticker, maybe they get a donut. And 20 years ago, they got to see a lot of friends. Today, they have to deal with a lot of BS and a lot of crazy people. But they do it. And I trust them, just like I trust the attorneys in the AG's office and the county commissioners. Now, there are more election deniers than we had previously. But I feel good that we're going to have a solid plan in place, and I'll have the right legal team in place when it's necessary to make sure we beat back lawsuits and make sure that the one the voters picked is the winner.
Any other questions from anyone here? If you have any, just raise your hand or unmute yourself. One thing, Eugene, that you mentioned on Saturday that maybe you can speak to again is how committed you are to ensuring our democratic values here in our state. You know, all of the things, women's health care, equal rights, et cetera. It's a tough job, you're a fantastic candidate, and you shared some things with us on how you're going to be an attorney general for all of the people, and maybe you can speak to that again, because that really stuck with me.
Yeah, so it's this some of this stuff, I think you got it sometimes to say, Eugene, why do you tell stories? I think the stories give a better example than my 3-point plan to do, healthcare, whatever. It doesn't, I think sometimes we as Democrats make mistakes about we trying to out fact and out policy everyone. And I think sometimes stories about your life will give people a better reflection of who you are.
Right.
So on this one, where I think you're referring to is when I was first elected Auditor General. And what do? Now this may, for some of you that don't know a lot of this, and I don't mean it's not that you should have, but it was the first time in Pennsylvania history that Democrats had won the 3 row office positions. Kathleen Kane was elected Attorney General. I was elected Auditor General. Rob McCord was elected State Treasurer. Well, both of them ended up going to federal prison during that term. So when that happens, you are the default keynote speaker at all the county dinners. So I ended up doing a lot of that. And Tom Corbett was the governor, and I'm doing my job as Auditor General, being a tough and fair watchdog. And when I would go to these dinners, people say, you get them, you're the best, be a tiger, be an animal, kill them. Blah, not literally, but all the high five, I saw that audit on this, you're doing great, blah, 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 blah. Then Tom Wolf won. Then I would go to the Democratic dinners. Eugene, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're tough on the governor. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, I voted for him, but that's not my job. My job is to be the watchdog. The second oldest office elected in Pennsylvania was the Auditor General behind the governor. Why? And why do you elected in separate cycles? You're supposed to be the watchdog. Whether it was me as a janitor in college while playing 2 sports, and yes, I worked as a janitor, and people say, "Oh, Eugen, you're just like Rudy." I'm like, don't insult me that way. I was a much better football player than Rudy. I mean, he only had one tackle. One tackle. Now, granted, it was for Notre Dame. It was against Georgia Tech. All right, so I got to give him that. But I took pride in how clean the floors were when I was working as a janitor in the dorms in college, up to being the Auditor General of Pennsylvania. I've always taken every job I had seriously. Believe me, one of my first jobs was as a Little League umpire. You want to talk about getting battle tested? Umpire one of these travel all-star Little League games. Oh, you just don't have the heart to tell these parents. This is not Yankee Stadium, and I hope your kid makes it, but considering that 1 billion people play baseball and 500 make any real money, the odds are against it. Let them have some fun. But that certainly being the Little League umpire helped thicken the skin a little bit too. So, but I think that that's some of, what you should know about me is I call them like I see them, whether I was a
Right.
Little League umpire, a basketball referee, or as a janitor at college, all the way up to the Auditor General. I call them like I see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to comment, Eugene, that I'm also a referee in 3 sports, so and I can say it has thickened my skin quite a bit.
And by the way, Carl, I'm curious which one. Basketball to me is the hardest because every call is bang bang, and everyone thinks they know a block charge. Everyone.
Right, and I do agree with you. Basketball's the hardest, just because I have to be aware of about 5 things at the same time, whether of what somebody's doing. The easiest sport that I do is soccer because it's easier to focus on things in soccer of what's going on.
Yeah, soccer. I did soccer at the rec level a couple of times, but baseball and basketball were the 2 I did. And baseball is hard when you're behind the plate, and obviously a bang bang play on the bases. But that's your only job is making that call. Basketball, you're watching whether there's a block charge and whether some kid's hanging in the 3-point lane while someone else is potentially traveling. Like it's all happening at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't get replay for those. You say, "Oh, but I saw on TV you get replay." Not at the level we're refereeing at.
Right.
So that just speaks to your level of being a multitasker, correct? And that you're going to be able to see a lot of things coming at you all at one time, which
there was
you're
a day where
probably
I
going
gave.
to encounter that every day, right?
There was a day where I gave the address at my law school, and I coached a travel youth baseball game that day. And something happened where I had to deal with Auditor General issues, and it was all within like a 3-hour time span.
Yeah, and the other thing that we talked about prior on Saturday with you that some of the folks weren't able to be part of is, how there was a question asked about promoting our Democratic Party as we move forward from April to November and not getting down in the mud and playing dirty, but still pushing our values and our mission. And you spoke to that really eloquently on Saturday, and maybe you
I think
can
first of all,
speak to
you got
that
to
a
meet
little
people.
bit.
You got to meet people where they are, and for starters, look, I think our party can have a bad habit of this, where we look down our nose at sometimes people that aren't quite as highly educated.
Right.
And I think it's a mistake. I think we've lost a lot of people that agree with us economically, but they feel we don't share their values.
Right.
Now people that are racist, misogynistic, homophobic, look, I mean, okay, yeah, we're not going to cater to that. But there's a whole lot of people that I think are open-minded, but feel we've lost touch with them. Now, granted, we keep winning elections, so I don't want to make this doom and gloom.
Right.
But I don't think that we should be looking our nose down on anybody. And if someone voted for Trump once because they lost a business during COVID, my attitude is, hey, let's hear them out. I mean, COVID sucked for everybody. Let's hear them out. Not every decision that made was right. I think both Governor Wolf and many of the governors were trying to do the right thing, but he would sit here and tell you today he didn't do everything. He and I have shared many a time talking about, like, man, if there's something we could have done over again, not because every decision was wrong, but mistakes were made. When someone lost their business because of COVID and they felt we didn't hear them out, I think we've got to meet them where they are.
Right.
And so I start off with those two things: meet people where they are, and don't look your nose down. Not meaning you, but any of us.
Right. Correct.
Don't look your nose down on people.
That's an important message in our small rural counties here, you know, particularly whenever we're outnumbered and outmanned. It's really important how we frame our conversations.
I'm going to give you one example, and it's not going to change how everyone in Bedford County works, but I'm just going to tell you, words matter. I support an assault weapon ban. I support making sure civilians don't have access to military-style weapons. 90% of voters agree with the second. 61% agree with the first. Meet people where they are. When you say assault weapon ban, it sounds like you're coming to take all the guns. When you say civilians shouldn't have military-style weapons, I know you're like, it's not a trick. It's meeting them where they are. Because most people don't actually want what we would refer to as assault weapons in the hands of civilians. But they also want to know we respect their right in, to own a hunting rifle. It's never in my home, but, handguns, stuff like that. We're not going to come take that stuff. That stuff's not going to happen.
Right.
So we should at least reflect the idea that we know where they're coming from to a degree. Because I'm sure in Bedford County, the gun issue is a big issue.
It is a big issue.
And I don't know how many times I've talked about it. I don't know how many times as a party we talk about this, but I'm going to. Stoneman Douglas was horrific. I mean, I still can't believe that, Sandy Hook. Anytime I think about Sandy Hook, I want to break down and cry. But 2/3 of all firearm deaths in Pennsylvania are suicides. 2/3.
Yeah.
Let's put a dent in that.
And that really rang so true to some folks that you were talking with on Saturday. We
I know
really,
some of them, yes.
Yeah, it really, your words really resonated with a lot of folks, and they really do resonate with us. And much appreciated for all your time here.
Well, my pleasure.
Allison has a hand up. Do you have a hand up? No. I see a little white hand on my screen. Sorry. Any other? Oh, Carlton has a question.
Yeah. Last year, Eugene and I were both at the same Bruce Springsteen concert up in State College last March of 2023. I have to ask you, Eugene, what was your favorite song he played during that?
So, so for starters, by the way, here's how it works. So, in full disclosure, on my daughter's birthday, we went to the Springsteen concert. Then for Father's Day weekend, we went to the Taylor Swift concert. So if you say, "Oh, how come Eugene can't self-fund his campaign?" Well, because I took my daughter to the Taylor Swift concert. That'll get you broke real fast.
Correct.
Look, I am a huge Born to Run fan. I love it, and so and that Rosalita, obviously, those two. I think, in particular, in concert, Rosalita can be a lot of fun.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. I just loved every single moment of it.
And Taylor Swift, what she's doing to the concert scene is beyond, it's beyond ridiculous how good she is. But Springsteen is still bringing it for 3 hours at the age of 70 plus. So yeah, it's not bad what he's pulling off.
Yeah.
Well, Eugene, it is, I mean, I can't imagine anybody not supporting a Bruce Springsteen and a Taylor Swift fan.
But I got to be honest, because you make mistakes in life. I didn't realize you were supposed to dress up as one of the eras. So,
yes.
So I went with a button-down blue shirt and khakis. And then my daughter's friends and some of my nieces were like, what era is Uncle Eugene? And they were all distressed over this. And so I need to get, the Swifty over 50 shirt,
Yeah, you do, but it's so appreciated that you did it. So
But I was 73,000 people in that stadium. I think 72,875 were in an outfit.
Wow. Any other questions here for Eugene this evening before we try to turn him loose and let him get some rest? You've had a long day, my friend.
I'll be in Erie all day tomorrow. So
A long day. Well, I hope you got to see the eclipse.
so this is the other part of my personality that we don't need to get into too much, but I had the special glasses on and got a run in during the eclipse.
Oh, for Pete's sakes.
Which to me was just, I thought it was just so cool experience because it was literally hot. Then you get like the dust, the eclipse, then it got hot again. Because it was just a short 35-minute 4-mile run, but
It was really spectacular. I
It
hope
wasn't.
everybody on here was able to enjoy that yesterday. And I'm glad that you took some time to get a quick 4-mile run in,
Yeah.
Eugene. Yeah. So continue making us all feel like slackers this evening, as I think we'll
Oh no,
wait.
I am sure, and I shouldn't even joke about this, but I am sure that it is just we all have some form of addiction.
I
I am
know.
sure that there is some of that goes on in me with this, but I guess it beats some of the others.
Dave, do you have anything else to add?
Just an observation. So our mail-in ballots arrived yesterday, and our newsletter to our voters arrived the same day, right?
Wow, that's timing.
With the mail-in ballots. And in our newsletter, we explained who we were supporting and why we were supporting them. And one of the criteria was who does the work. And Eugene, you've been here with Bedford County 4 times already this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We haven't encountered a statewide candidate who has spent as much time with Bedford County voters as you have, and it's deeply appreciated.
Very, very well said, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Very appreciated. And with that being said, if there's no further comments on here, I think we're going to say goodnight to Eugene. Good luck. I'm sure we'll be talking to you. I'm sure we'll see you again. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank
you
you
so
for
much
pulling
this
this together
evening.
and all your support. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for the
Thank
questions.
you.
And Carlton,
Thank you
keep calling
so
them
much,
straight when out there
Eugene.
on the athletic field.
You got it. You bet.
See you later. Have a good
See
night,
you.
everybody.
Good night.
Night.